Welcome to Travel Buddy, presented by Switchfly. In this podcast, we talk about all things travel, rewards, and loyalty. Let's get to it.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Travel Buddy, presented by Switchfly. I have with me back again after many episodes of a hiatus. We have Nowell Outlaw, the CEO of Switchfly. Nowell, thank you for joining. I'm so excited to see you again.
Hey, Brandon, good to see you. It's been a while.
It has been a while. Well, I am excited to talk to you today because we are talking about the $100 million question, how airlines can win with packaging. Now, what is so interesting is we have talked a lot about loyalty in the past. We've talked a lot about the challenges. We've talked about dynamic packaging. But what I'm interested to hear from you is how are airlines piecing these tools together to provide a good experience for clients? Or for customers, and what's getting in the way of that? And so this is where that $100 million question comes in. And so I want to start with, there's this great report that came out it was a couple years ago, from McKinsey. It's called Winning in Loyalty. And they presented, through their research, through many surveys, some stats that I thought can help frame this question, where they talk about why loyalty matters. And just to give a brief overview, they say that 64% of customers in loyalty programs are more likely to purchase more frequently. Half are more likely to recommend to others. 35% are more likely to choose that brand over its competitors. And 31% are more willing to pay a higher price to stay with the brand. Now, the interesting thing here is this was written through COVID, and so it had some different takes on supply constraints and things like that. So it's the perspective of the report. But this one other stat talked about that there is a saturated loyalty landscape with low engagement. And so it talked about how there is less than 50% of active loyalty members within any kind of the programs that they serve it. And I know that this kind of stat, this inactivity is replete in the airline community with their customers. There are trillions of points that are totally unredeemed, which creates a liability for airlines. And it creates this kind of like lack of engagement with the brand. And so there are some ways that you guys have built and have talked about before for kind of getting at this engagement, which we'll talk about in a second. But talk to me a little bit from an airline's perspective, this challenge that they have with inactive loyalty membership. What is going on there? Why is it a problem? And why is it something worth solving?
You know, I think the airlines do a really good job in marketing to people with their status, right? But, you know, I literally was sitting there yesterday with my wife, and because she always uses my points. Oh, can you do an upgrade? Can you buy a ticket, you know, for our kids or whatever? Absolutely. And she happened to have her app up, and I'm like, you have 165,000 points. Ooh. Why am I spending, doing this stuff? And she's kind of like banking it, right? And I think it's, I think when it's just flight only, there's perfect use cases for that, right? If you can actually get the upgrade, get the seats, right, and do the points. It's also, are you really creating value for the consumer, right? Mm. And what we've found is, in the dynamic packaging side of it, the airlines are actually able to create a lot of value for the consumer, but I don't necessarily think that the consumers are aware that those programs exist, right?
Okay. So really quickly define dynamic packaging, because I know I want to get there and I want to talk more about that, but what are we talking about?
So dynamic packaging is really, taking a flight and then combining it with another product. So a hotel, right? So if you're going Denver to Cancun and you're flying, whatever airline that you're flying, can I also add the hotel, add the car rental, add the activities? So I have basically a whole package, right, in my trip. And the interesting way to think about this is that people sometimes think of it as packages, right, in travel where I have to do this. But really, dynamic packaging for consumers is a way, if I use what you're really used to is bundle and save. When you think about Xfinity or Comcast, or however you do your cable bill or your insurance.
I was thinking insurance.
Yeah. Airlines have these programs where it's, it may be branded as vacations, but it really is a bundle and save ability for you to save money. And there's plenty of case examples of people out there. The Points guy has an article about an airline where no matter what they tried to do on retail, trying to do it, they could not get the same rates as get when they did the package search on that client, right?
And you've talked about it. I don't want to go into all the details because we talked about this in episodes past, but where there's basically coupon codes and relationships and contracts in place that make it to where that package is actually, that's the thing. It's the best possible rate that you can get. There's a lot of technical and different issues why that's the case, but yeah, fascinating.
An airline is motivated to have their planes full, right? Because that's how they make money. So, what you'll also see is that sometimes the airlines might discount a certain segment, right? So if they're trying to expand into a market or they're really focused on a particular destination, they might actually do those seats lower if it's combined with a package, right? And then they bundle in the hotel savings and things for the consumer. And ultimately, they don't even have to give you a discount code. It's cheaper, right? Than if you tried to go buy that in a retail segment.
So it's a win for the consumer because we get better rates and we get, I guess, one place to go, one itinerary that's all put together. And it's a win for the airline because, how would you explain that?
Well, it's a win for the airline because if you think about, if I'm flying Denver to Cancun and let's just say it's $500 a seat, if it's my wife and I that go and I spend it pure in points, it's $1,000. But I'm there for a week. I'm staying in, some resort and I rent a car. Well, the resort, just to stay there, let's say that's $3,000 and the car is another $500, right? If you're not doing the packaging component as an airline, you're just selling the $1,000, you're missing out on the other $3,500 in the ability to burn down the points, right? Financially, the airline is carrying these points on their books. They have to be burnt off. If instead of burning off $1,000, I can now burn off $4,500, and the consumer is gonna spend that either way, and the consumer would rather spend their points than now I have to whip out a credit card and buy the hotel separately. And so being able to do that all in one place is beneficial to the airline and it's also beneficial to the consumer.
That's right. So, okay, so we're talking money here. You're talking to the CFO of an airline or, head of revenue or whatever that looks like. And the case is use dynamic packaging, embrace this loyalty narrative, the technology underpinning it, all the experiences and the packages that can be put together because it actually helps your balance sheet in real ways. It helps reduce the liabilities on your balance sheet while at the same time creating new revenue streams, so helping the income statement. And so speaking like financial language, this is a huge win by putting these things together.
For sure. And it's, some people have been successful doing this. Some people have been really successful doing this. And some people have failed at doing this. I think it depends on the program, where you are, the destinations that you're able to serve. But, it does offer to those loyalty consumers, right? If you bring this back to the loyalty user, a different option than just redeeming for a flight, right? Okay. Hey, now I could redeem for a hotel, or I could redeem for a car. I could redeem for a flight plus a hotel plus swim with the dolphins at some activity. If I'm a platinum status person, I could have 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 points in my account. Burning that down, just doing single route flights, that's a lot of travel, right? If I'm a high traveler, so I'm a high profile traveler, I have a lot of points. Maybe I'm not using a credit card. Maybe I am using a credit card. But do I want to get back on a plane and go week after week to burn those points? Probably not. Would I rather take my family on a vacation, with a hotel all bundled in and burn down, half my points then? I might want to be able to do that. Right.
Interesting.
So there's value for the consumer in being able to basically redeem for more.
So it's a win-win for the airline, for other folks in that ecosystem, and then win-win for the consumer. Why don't more people do it? This seems like an obvious, like, oh, well, sure, I should look into this tomorrow.
Because it's complicated, right? And I think that it can be very hard, and you have to understand the market, what you're getting into. Certain airlines, it doesn't make a lot of sense, right? If you're a small program that you're just flying to, up into Canada, it might not make a lot of sense for you. But, if you're a Caribbean airline, it might make a ton of sense because, well, where do people go on vacation? Well, they go to the Caribbean. Well, why not? If you're the guy that's taking the people to that island destination, why don't you be the people that also sells them the hotel and also sells them, the activities and do all that other stuff, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So this brings us to the $100 million question. So the thing that you guys talk about is you have put a lot of money into building this platform the right way, to package things in the right way, the right things that you're packaging. You have all the relationships and all of that. It's super complicated. So you can spend $100 million to build it, or you can work with Switchfly. But before we get there, talk to me a little bit about what is some of the complexity that goes into that. So we've talked about this before on the show, but not quite in this way. So when you're thinking about, all of the things that have to go into a dynamic packaging solution, it is so great, connects to loyalty, it's a win-win for everybody involved, but you have to get a lot of things right. So you got to package things together. There's the reporting, there's financial, there's legal, there's all that infrastructure. And then of course there's currencies, languages. I think he said this earlier before we started recording that, you can't just be in English. You've got to have many languages, down to the little, pop-up screens and all kinds of things. You got 100,000 things going on the right way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that. And then also like the connectors between a hotel and a car and the experience and all of that working together. How does that even happen?
It's a function of time, right? In a weird way. So Switchfly's very first dynamic packaging customer was American Airlines, and that was 19 years ago.
Interesting. Okay, I just got off an American flight, and it was great.
Yeah. Yeah, I love them. I mean, they're a great customer, and they kind of, I think, like a lot of things that they do, they kind of started a movement in this direction. But it's when you evaluate all the things that have to happen, right? Just booking a flight is only one piece of the puzzle, right? And so now you need to figure out if you're just going to use, I'll give you an example. Do I want to use OTAs, so online travel agencies, for my hotel inventory? There's lots of vendors out there, Expedias, Agodas, hotel beds, web beds, like all these different, cloud beds, you name the company. Or do I want to have my own hotel relationships, right? So the platform needs to support both connecting to those third-party suppliers, right? Plus the ability to have my own internal contracts that I've managed. So if I'm an airline and I've negotiated with Hilton, right, or Holiday Inn Express or whoever it is, I need to be able to put and manage those contracts into the system, right? That's two separate functional components just for hotel, right? Okay. Then you expand upon that and you say, well, it's not just the front end that the user is shopping through. It's the back end services, right? So, because problems do happen in travel. So what is the agent tool that the agent is using to service that booking, right? And how complex is that to make it easy to do a cancellation, do a modification, right? Upgrade the room, upgrade to this, and then, and then expand that on a global basis to say, well, now I want to be able to service the Far East. I want to service the Caribbean. I want to service North America. But I also want to be able to do that with my internal contracts and the best rates that are available out there between suppliers, because hotel inventory is in constant flux. Some vendors have better rates versus other vendors. And so, trying to get the best value and best margin out of just those things. And then, add car rentals, add activities, add insurance, add all these things up. And, if you're not careful, you're taking on a massive custom build project that it's millions and millions of dollars, but also the ongoing upkeep of all those connectors and suppliers and things is a really big lift.
Yeah, to your point, it's a market. You could get it set up one day, but then weeks later, the prices are all different. There's there's some major airlines that are testing out like surge pricing. I mean, it's like things are constantly changing.
Correct.
Hotels, airlines, all of that, and keeping it all in place has got to be enormously challenging.
The ongoing technology support.
Yeah.
Every single connector. So if you're connected to a GDS like Sabre, you're connected to the car rental service, you're connected to an activities provider. Well, those guys are also constantly upgrading, right? So you have to have a constant team of people just supporting the connections, right? It's not a once coded, it's built, and that team goes away. Yep. This is a never-ending journey of now I got to support this new connector from these people and this connector from these people, and now there's a state requirement over here. And I have to collect this fee and I have to do this and do all this other stuff. My personal view is it's super complex. If you're an airline, just run the airline, right? It's complex as it is. To add all this other dimension to it from a programmatic standpoint, you're not really a software company. You are an airline. So
that's right.
Be good at what you're good at and let other people who are good at what they're good at be your partners.
And maybe reconsider that you can't vibe code this over the weekend on Cursor or Replit or something. This is not something you just kind of snap together.
It is not, and the interesting thing, I guess I'll tell you this story, which is, we had a customer that decided we're going to build it ourselves. So 18 months ago, they were convinced because of a technology initiative, right, around some really fancy stuff that they were going to go build this themselves. And so they got a vendor and they started coding away and, that project failed. They're still a customer. They're back. They're great. And, we're doing enhancements for them. We're working together. But it's not for the faint of heart, right? It is a lot of work to keep both to build it out with what it's capable of, but also to keep the thing up, running, and functional without any interruptions, without any services. Because I think the thing that people focus on is they always focus on the front end, right, of the user experience, the shopping flow, and what's this and that. But there's also the whole downstream system that has to be paid attention to. And once you start adding that stuff on top of each other, you're not just building one house, right? You're building a neighborhood and you need to put in streets and fire hydrants and stoplights and, oh my gosh, we didn't think we had to build the school and we have to do this. And, we think about the financial feeds and, simple things like, okay, now we're using points. Well, now we have to connect to our points provider. Well, what if we have two different programs? We have like the gold members and we have the platinum members, and they exchange rates at different things. That's a whole coding infrastructure that has to be understood for your teams. And it flows all the way down through the system as far as how you redeem, how that is calculated, how it comes through the financial feeds, how this goes on. I'm telling you, it's tens of millions of dollars to consider building it yourself. Right.
Gosh. And not just even one time. I mean, all the time. Every year you're spending millions of dollars trying to keep
for
it
sure.
together.
Keep it up.
Yeah. Well, I want to do a little bit of storytelling. So I think a lot of people that are listening would understand the loyalty argument. I think it's pretty clear. People that love to be part of loyalty programs do spend more revenue. And it's clear that this is really hard to do. But what are some, let's say, okay, so I'm the head of revenue ops, or I'm, thinking of, I would like to, bring this kind of program into my airline or into my travel experience. What are some things that you have seen where customers have gotten some great benefit out of it? They've hit results, even anecdotally. I mean, you shared a story earlier, but things that you just heard from people that this has made a big difference.
So we launched a partner, Bermuda Air, in less than 90 days.
Correct.
And I think the interesting thing is, there are airlines out there that have spent the last 18 months trying to get something out in the market.
Yeah.
Right. And so, speed is needed in order to make this go. Right.
Yeah.
I personally don't believe in taking on big multi-year implementation projects because there's too much risk. Right. And so, fast wins in my book, being in the market. And also, as long as you may not have 100% day one, right? Because I think we have 3 RFPs we're answering right now. And, some of the things you're like, well, that's a nice to have. When you don't have a program today, boy, you should at least get your program launched before you're worrying about this feature that's so minute and so in the future, right? Yeah. Is it really the thing you need to have? And so, I would say the biggest thing is get up and running, right? Get it functional. Because there's a lot of work just from promoting it, getting your loyalty members to use it, right? Getting people to redeem for it, understanding the commercial aspects that you have to do. And the faster you can get that done, the better it is for your business, because then you have, money coming in. And, we've seen programs that have gone from 0 to, they're on track to do $500 million in 5 years, right?
Gosh.
So
this is additional revenue. This is like, something like that they didn't have before, but they spend some money, put some technology, people together, $500 million new dollars over 5 years. Amazing.
Yeah, for sure. And, some of these programs, when you start thinking about if it's long haul flights combined, so long haul is, if you're going to Europe, right, from North America, or you're going to the Far East or something, well, those plane tickets are not cheap, right? Combine that with, your stay. So you're doing, Denver to Geneva for a week, plus a hotel in Geneva is, whatever, $700 a night. Yeah. That's a lot of money that is all of a sudden available to you as an airline that is, is able to be charged and make money on, right, as well. Yeah. And so, when you think about the additional revenue streams or revenue segments, beyond charging people for their bag or charging people for, if they want to buy a snack on the plane, what if you could, instead of charging them $35 for their bag, what if you could make, $500 off of their hotel bill, right? Yeah. That's where the margin comes into this. And I think that's the added benefit, is it becomes a revenue stream for people.
You know what I like to, because, when I travel to Europe as a family, it's several $1,000s for a week. And what I like about it is if I can put all of that onto one itinerary or reservation, or it's in one email thread, that to me is like the biggest thing. That's just like, because I share it with everybody. I'm like, just look at the email thread, just look at the one thing, and it's nice to have all that together. Just as a consumer, little pro tip.
For sure.
So, it sounds like a major win. But I'm curious, if you had one thing that you wish that you could get across to somebody who's maybe considering this decision or have, thought about loyalty or dynamic packaging, what's one thing you would want to say to them after, all your experience and what you guys are building at Switchfly?
I would say that speed matters. And again, we were just talking about that, right? Which is, I've seen too many projects in my life that are these massive lifts and they fail miserably, right? And, I would rather see customers be successful, right? And, being able to have a program launched in, say, 90 days is a meaningful thing, right? And that having it out there fast, airlines are not software companies, right? Some of them have massive IT departments and do all that stuff. But it's also the type of thing where building it yourself is too hard, right? Yeah. And you're right. No one's vibe coding this, right? It's not going to be done in a weekend. And, but the trick is, well, how fast could you get this done? And then once you get it done, how well does it work? And, it's an expertise. There's not very many vendors that actually do this kind of stuff. But for an airline, it's pretty powerful stuff.
It fits really nicely into the kind of narrative that you see today. It's very lean, be very efficient, be very fast because of, in different industries and different domains, because of AI and the way that technology is really coming together and kind of all these like pieces are fitting together now that people are able to move a lot faster. So it is nice to like kind of fit into this mode where actually you can do that, and you can do it the right way. It's not
Correct.
like, you're just putting it together. Like, it's actually done really well.
Yeah,
Which is
I mean, in
important.
our case, most of it's actually not technology. When you think about, okay, someone wants to launch, it's 90 days, right? Most of it's actually not technology work. There's some integration work that's pretty quick. A lot of it is figuring out, okay, how are we going to launch this, right? How are we going to market this? So, Switchfly,
Oh, yeah.
actually brings marketing knowledge to the table to actually help people understand how to promote a program like this, which
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
yes, we can show up with the tech, but the tech that's up and running but brings in no bookings helps no one, right?
Yeah,
And so,
yeah.
we work with our customers weekly in some cases on how to promote this, how to focus on certain destinations, how to focus on certain segments, and really help their programs launch successfully, because that's also part of doing this the right way.
That's huge. That's huge. Because, I mean, it's almost September now. And so it's thinking like, okay, by January, I want to have this new program up and running and launched. I need to announce it. I need to go to all my, million loyalty customers. And that's a huge lift. Not only just like the actual like implementation of something like that, but just the messaging, like to your point, like what do we actually focus on? Like all of that's huge.
Yeah, for sure.
That's great. Okay, well, Nowell, thank you. I have one final question for you. Where are you traveling next?
Good question. I leave Wednesday on my round the world trip. So I'm going from here to Singapore to Bangalore, and Bangalore back to Denver in about 9 days. And then I will be in Lisbon at the Aviation World Festival, the first part of October, to go there. And then I might have to go to Nairobi, Kenya with my wife, which are pictures from up here. So
Fascinating.
yeah.
Cool. I what I love about every time I talk to you is you're always jet setting somewhere. And I think that's so cool because, obviously you are building a travel company, but it's neat that you really are practicing what you preach. You're on the road all the time. So yeah, it's cool. It's cool to hear where you've been.
Great.
Well, Nowell, thank you so much for your time today. I am keen to hear how your travels are going. Would love to hear more about your expose at the Aviation Festival in Lisbon. And I know that what you guys are building, having a little bit of inside knowledge is really coming together really nice. And I'm excited to see things continue to launch throughout the fall. So Nowell, thank you. And we'll talk next time.
All right. Thanks, Brandon. Have a good day.